Alright, I'm here with Matt Higby at the PlanetSide 2 Ultimate Empire Showdown.
Hello.
Thank you for interviewing with us again.
Yes.
So I've got a whole different varied list of questions, but I'll probably stick to kind of some of the upcoming stuff, roadmap stuff.
Right on.
So I guess the first thing is how did you organize those things by month? What made you guys put them in certain places on the roadmap?
Well, it was largely based on where we thought they fit in terms of community priority, but a lot of that is also going to be kind of found out once we start seeing what the votes look like for them. So we wanted them to be flexible enough that we can move them back and forth. If something really popular is in April, then maybe we'll move it up to February. But it was also largely based on how long we already estimated those tasks to take. Okay. So some of the larger systems that I would love to get in faster, like the resource revamp, which I think is in May, I would love to get that in sooner, but the plans that we have for it right now actually require more engineering time and UI time for us to be able to get it done. Mm-hmm. So it just necessarily has to slot out of certain places. I think as we evolve the roadmap stuff, one of the things that I want to do is put on individual tasks, like an estimate for how long this is actually going to take, because that'll give people a bit of a better understanding of, hey, why is this in December? This seems like something I want right now. It's like, well, because it takes 11 months for us to do, so it's going to get done fucking December. It's not because we don't want it right now. In fact, we have people working on it right now. It's just going to take that long to get done. Right. So there's a lot of extra dimensions that we need to add to the roadmap, I think, before it's completely like giving people the total picture that we wanted to give.
Right.
But, you know, I think at least it's giving people an idea of what the next 6 months of priority, top level things that we're going to be working on the team.
Cool. One of the things I saw on there was Empire-specific run animations. I thought that was kind of I don't even know, I'm not even sure what that means, but it's an interesting proposition on there.
Yeah, I mean, that's something, a lot of the things in there are things that like we wanted to do, either wanted to do during development, we just didn't get a chance to. That's something the animators have been wanting to do for a while. They wanted to have different animation silhouettes for the Empires as they ran. So you can imagine seeing like a TR soldier and he runs in a very regimented way versus like a NC soldier who kind of runs a little more freely, and then you have the TS soldier.
Exactly. So it'll be another kind of like, it'll be another way to tell them apart, I guess, is kind of like
exactly. Yeah, it's just a differentiation. And you know, it's a little fluff, and it's there because, again, it's something that the animators have been wanting to do for a really long time. It's just with all the other tasks, it just was never a top priority.
Cool. So can you tell us kind of about your approach to design when it comes to player input? So when somebody gives you feedback, how do you guys kind of take that and run with it?
Well, there's definitely a process to it. A lot of times we try to deconstruct the feedback, figure out exactly what they mean. A good example of it, I released a graph a couple days ago. I don't remember what it was. Time's all the same.
Oh, the vehicle one?
Yeah, the vehicle kills graph. And when we looked at it, we were like, okay, right now we have about 20% kills coming from vehicles, about 80% kills coming from infantry, which in a combined arms game doesn't feel bad to us, but we keep hearing that there's too much vehicle spam and vehicles are getting all these kills and vehicles are ruining the game. Well, I mean, 4 out of 5 kills coming from infantry doesn't really paint a picture of things like that, but when you kind of deconstruct what people are really telling you, one time every 5 times you get killed, you have basically nothing that you can do about it at all if you get killed by a vehicle. That's suddenly a much more frustrating experience than 20% of the time you're getting killed by a vehicle, right? So there's a lot of reading between lines that has to happen, figuring out this is what people are asking for, but in reality what they're trying to get is this. For a long time people were like, we want walls.
Yes.
What they really wanted was to have a little bit more predictability into the flow of combat so that they can set up better defenses and actually like understand where they could be to defend areas, right?
More cover as well and stuff like that.
Exactly, right, yeah. So a lot of it's just deconstructing it down to here's what's actually needed. And then a lot of times it's, okay, the best way for us to solve that is by doing this thing that people are requesting. But sometimes it's other ways too. The Liberator was a really good example of this, is people said the only way you can fix the Zephyr is by changing the number of shots in the clip. You can't have 6 shots in the clip. Like you need to nerf that gun. Well, we changed a lot of things about the Zephyr that had nothing to do with really nerfing the weapon itself, at least not directly. We didn't change its reload speed, we didn't make it suddenly like, I mean, we changed the distribution of damage and the area of effect, but it still did the same core damage as it did before. And we managed to get a pretty significant drop in the number of kill to death ratio for the average Liberator by changing things that were completely sideways to it. And really it was, I'm pissed off that I'm getting killed by Liberators. It's not change the damage on this effort, right? So there's a lot of reading between the lines. And I think that when we start doing this process with the roadmap, we're going to see similar things. But now at least people will have a context of here's these things that these guys already know about and already building towards, which I think is really important for people to feel comfortable it's going in the right direction at least.
And I don't think I've ever seen anything like that before in game design, so it's really cool to kind of see it all coming together and what you guys think about, where the game is going to go. And give the players kind of a chance to voice their opinion on that. So that's very cool.
Well, I'll tell you, so much of it came from you guys at PSU during beta and before and even now. I mean, being able to have that direct feedback to people was so important to us while we were making the game. We wanted to figure out how we could continue to do that now that we have a much noisier community with much different objectives. So I saw your tweets where you were saying like, well, it's just going to be mob mentality and stuff like that, and it's certainly a concern. It's definitely something that we're going to need to watch for. But the trick to me, I don't know if you saw the post that I posted on the forums today about it.
I did not.
The key is that we are still curators of the game. We're still the deciders of whether something goes in or not, and whether something, regardless of how popular it is, fits with the overall goals of the game or is harmful to the game. So at the very least, if someone submits an idea and it becomes a really popular idea, they'll get a response, they'll get an understanding of, hey, we're not going to do this right now, but here's why. It's going to take 5 years for us to do. Or it goes against this other thing that we're already working on doing here that helps to solve the problem that you're trying to solve with this other system. Those, at least then people are getting feedback about their ideas. They're finding out what happened with this thing. It didn't just disappear.
Yeah, and after seeing it, I'm not as concerned about it. So I think it'll be interesting. I've been kind of watching the votes go up over the past couple of hours.
Oh man, see, I haven't had a chance to.
So it's been interesting to watch.
What is the most popular?
Let me see if I still have it here, actually. Might be able to. The most popular one is Spawn Room Tunnel System.
Oh, good. We're doing that.
So I know you guys are already working on it. Got it. And then there was rendering distance. And that's another one. I actually have that on my list. Have you guys made any progress on infantry render distance?
Well, it's a really challenging problem. We just changed the way Max is rendered for aircraft, and that was sort of a ham-fisted way to do it. We said if you're a Max, you show up at small vehicle distance when you're in a plane. The long-term solution is when you go and load out your character, we're going to determine a role or several roles that your character is currently fulfilling based on the weapons that you equip. And then you'll have different render distances depending on that. But it's tough. I mean,
very complicated, for sure.
It's extremely complicated. The number one thing that makes people's computers slow down when they play in PlanetSide 2 is the number of characters on the screen. Not rendering, not drawing. That's not what slows them down. It's tracking. All the client-side, CPU-side tracking of those characters is really heavy and expensive. So when we change rules even slightly, tiny percentage or 10 meters further out, you render characters, suddenly changes the performance profile in significant ways. So we have to be really careful about how we manage that. So we know it's a huge issue, and we're working on trying to build ways to do it a little bit better and at least give you the targets that are relevant for you at appropriate distances better than what we do.
So kind of over the Christmas break and kind of over as the game was kind of starting to come together after it came out, there's all of a sudden was a huge concern about depth of the game. And people being able to find something more involved to take part in the game. So metagame, essentially.
Sure.
What are some of the? I mean, some of the stuff is in the list, but were you surprised when you saw that when you came back, or
no, not really. I think that we knew that we had a really good moment-to-moment game, and we know that we had a really good moment-to-moment game, and we're totally understand and acknowledge that there's a lot of gains that need to be made on making the session-to-session experience more fun, and making the more medium to long-term goals and rewards for those goals more compelling than they are right now. A lot of it has to do with capture rules. A lot of it has to do with building in better ways for players to actually defend bases, so that you actually have the attack and defend instead of just the attack side. And those are all problems that we're not trying to hide or not acknowledge. They're just things that take time for us to solve. And I think we're making progress against them, even in small ways. Just with this month is going to make those kind of changes. We added the top 3 reinforcement locations to the deployment screen, and that's made a difference right now.
That's a very interesting change, by the way. I thought that was kind of cool. So.
Yeah, and it's a small change, right? It's not very much, but it just changes psychology a little bit. I've been talking a lot with our rewards designer, and he'll look at a problem and say, well, the actual issue here is the mechanic behind this. It doesn't work properly. Like, this mechanic isn't right for the game. And it's like, okay, granted, I'm not gonna disagree with that statement, but the fact that it's rewarded the way it is right now is causing people to actually go seek out that mechanic and do that thing. Whereas if we just changed the way that our rewards were slightly and didn't make that be such a rewarding way to earn certs, then suddenly it wouldn't be as big of a problem because fewer people would be actively seeking out that kind of thing. In this case, we're talking about spawn camping, and that's why we're changing the experience rules so that new players, when they first spawn, are worth less experience than once they've actually gone out and earned experience. Yeah, but his point is totally valid. He's saying, well, the problem is really that people can spawn in a Sunder and be totally defenseless and kill. And it's like, okay, yeah, but we can also make these small adjustments that make that problem less of a problem just by changing the way the psychology of the players is. If you can't get rewarded for killing dudes at a spawn point, then not as many people kill dudes at a spawn point.
Right, exactly. So this past week there was an interview with PC Gamer about the crown.
Oh yeah.
Some of the changes you guys are making with it. There's been a lot of concern in the community that that change actually, that you should investigate what happens to the crown and more duplicate it across the map as opposed to change the crown to make it easier to fight.
Right.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, we're not changing the crown to make it easier to fight. I've heard that from a few people having that concern too. What we're really doing is we're taking a path that people already use and we're just making it less irritating to use. That's it. I mean, right now people who attack the crown successfully always park their friggin' Sunder right underneath that bridge and they just walk right up that ditch. Yeah. We're just making the ditch a little bit less of a hassle for you to move up. The crown's actually going to be a lot harder for you to attack in the next update because of the way that the new spawn rooms are set up. The new spawn rooms are going to make defending a lot easier and a lot less camping.
Last week on
Yeah, that's a lot more egress points, so you can jump out of it. That's just inherently going to make every place in the game easier to defend. That and the tunnels are going to increase defensibility by well, I mean, it remains to be seen exactly what the percentage is and how long it takes for people to figure out counter strategies to the tunnels in the new spawn rooms, but it'll increase defensibility significantly.
Will the tunnels be the owning Empire only, or will it be?
Yeah, at least at first for the ones that are in the amp station and the tech lab or the tech plant. Those ones are defending Empire only. They're purely meant for transport between key strategic locations on the base and the spawn.
All right. Well, thank you for sitting down with us, standing up with us in front of the bubble wrap thing. And thank you for continuing to support the community as well. It's been awesome. So.
Well, you guys have been awesome. You guys.